Naturtrüb und erfrischend fruchtig. Richtig lecker. Krombacher Radler Naturtrüb. Der kräftige Radlergenuss aus naturtrübem Krombacher Kellerbier und fruchtiger Zitronenlimonade. Erfrischend fruchtig und weniger süß im Geschmack. Krombacher Radler Naturtrüb. Probieren Sie es selbst.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Chrism, and I'd like to welcome you to a conversation about your Kundalini awakening experience. Right now I am in the country of Croatia, and I'm broadcasting from the hotel that I've been staying at, and so I just want you to know from the outset here that we may be interrupted by people. The internet doesn't reach up into the actual private rooms, and so I'm down here in a dining area, and you might be able to hear some dishes rattling in the back, and you'll probably hear footsteps and whatnot. And then actually people may come over and want to talk with me or talk with each other, and that is as it is. I'm going to go ahead and begin this broadcast by welcoming you to this broadcast from Croatia. We're on the island of Vis, V-I-S, in the Adriatic Sea. That's the largest island from the city of Split on the Croatian mainland. It's about 60 miles out into the Adriatic Sea, and it's about another 100 miles to the Italian coastline, maybe a little less than 100 miles. And so we're really, really, really out in the middle of the Adriatic and the Adriatic Sea. It's a very, very beautiful place. Amazing coastlines. Amazing coastline. The inner areas are still a bit challenged by the various activities that have taken place there within the last 2 decades. One of them being the war, which I'm sure many of you have heard about. I would like to welcome Amelia and Eileen and Rosemary and those of you, excuse me, those of you who have collected in the chat room. In this conversation, we're going to have, depending on the amount of the noise. Excuse me. Thank you. Depending on the noise levels, I would like to talk with you about ego control and what an out-of-control ego on a societal level can do. One of the scenarios that can produce out-of-control ego responses are challenges to a person's survival. So, or state of survival. Within your Kundalini equation, the amount of phenomena that may occur with regards to how you live your life, or how your ego feels that it's being challenged within the Kundalini environment. It can really be profound. It can be a very, very profound scenario. Man, hello. There she goes. Okay.
There you are.
Can you tell me the name of this hotel again?
Tamaris.
Tamaris. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, this is at the Tamaris Hotel on the island of Vis. Anyway, So as your ego feels challenged within the Kundalini environment, and let's remember that almost everything within the paradigm of the ego, with an activated Kundalini or a person in the awakening process, is going to be amplified tremendously. I can't even put a number on it because that number will differentiate between each person. But it is amplified in a very profound way, and that puts the the ego, it puts the ego in a position of feeling like it needs to fight for its life. And Amelia, can you come online? And if not Amelia, then maybe I'll try Eileen here.
I'm online, Chrism. It's just very, very slow in its response.
Hi, Eileen.
Hi, Eileen.
Hi, Amelia.
Hi, Eileen.
Eileen, how's it coming? Can you hear it okay there?
Yes, it's coming across very well.
Ah, okay. Thank you, ma'am. I'll go ahead and put you in the blue, my dear. Thank you, Eileen.
Okay.
And thank you, Amelia. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't talking to a blank screen here. So thank you as well.
Yeah, no worries. You're coming across fine, and the sound in the background is actually not intrusive at all once you're speaking. So please don't worry about that, okay?
Thank you, my dear. All right. Okay, so as the ego begins to fight for its idea of existence, it can start to move in areas that are really, really difficult with regards to finding balance within the amplified environment that the Kundalini will create. And those imbalances can express themselves in many different ways. In some ways, being here in Croatia, it is significant that that they just came out of a war that was basically started by egos expressing in an out of control environment, and this would have taken place really back in World War II when one society allowed a faction of itself, of that society, to take control of the government and then to initiate disastrous protocols on another country. And then as the years go by, 40 years go by, that country that received those disastrous activities decided to return the favor. And, tit for tat, that whole scenario. This is the quality that an out-of-control, egocentric environment can create. And so, and we take it, from the country aspect and we bring it down to a personal aspect. You yourself, the 17 trillion yous that comprise a typical human being, meaning all your cellular consciousness. These types of activities can be taken against your friends, your families, perfect strangers, yourself, your pets. The list goes on. And so I'm going to really stress how important it is for you to begin to control how your ego is allowed to express itself within your Kundalini equation. It's exceptionally important. Just as the conflagration that occurred between Croatia and Serbia and Bosnia-Herzegovina and then all the other surrounding countries in this part of the world, that was all set off by ego out of control. And I'm going to also suggest that within your Kundalini environment, it can also set off different wars and animosities and extreme levels of anger or fear, that can really pollute a Kundalini environment. So I want to really bring this across to you that, you must control your ego. I'm not going to say kill it, because you know how I feel about that. We don't kill that which is a part of us. We're practicing ahimsa here, AHIMSA, which is Sanskrit for do no harm, or do not kill. And so, we're really training our lower self, our child self within us to learn how to do things in a way that is less violent, that is less volatile, that is, it doesn't necessarily have to lack passion, passion and a zest for life and things of that nature, but it does need to sit back and let the higher mental functioning self, the you that is listening to this, in addition to the ego that is listening to this broadcast, you, higher mental functioning self, need to take control of that little ego child, sit her or him down at the table and say, eat your food. Don't talk while you eat your food. So this is really what I want to discuss with you today about this. Just as in World War II, 750,000 Serbs were decimated just because they were Serbs, and then you come around to the 1990s, and this other war erupts here with the Serbs attacking everybody around them. Because of that, so can you attack or be attacked, or set yourself up to have a war of similar quality, say between yourself or your family or your friends. The first thing you need to really begin to understand is the value of self-correction. You're gonna make mistakes. I mean, we are raised by our egos, basically. We are given the ability to survive by the ego, and we are in many ways our personalities are formed by the way the ego is related within an environmental situation, all the way up to the social environment, the scholastic environment, the familial or the family environment. These things all have a way of sculpting our ego and our higher self, our higher mental functioning self at the same time. And so as this occurs, and then boom, the Kundalini comes into the equation and just amps everything up, tremendously so. It's very important for you to begin to self-correct. Different societies have different moral structures. Okay, I'm here in Croatia. When you're walking down the street in Croatia, well, first of all, the Croatian population, they're very similar to the Germans in some way. The men are really big. They're really tall. They're like, most of them are way over. They're like 6'3", 6'4". They're very big, very burly, and very much in that competitive "I'm a man" type of zone. And the women are complementary in the faction, in their femininity. You don't necessarily make eye contact with these folks. They're not real smiley, let's shake your hand, eye contact. They like to keep their own space, as do the French. I've noticed that in France as well. And so you need to be flexible enough to be able to read the environment that you're in. And when you're in an environment that your normal ego response would be, hey, how are you? My name's Chrism, da-da-da-da. Well, that's not necessarily respected by other cultures. And so different cultures will have different levels of what they term to be okay. And that's easy to digest mentally, but it's a little different when you're out there in the middle of nowhere and you don't speak the language. And, you want to be friendly and you want to make, friends or whatnot. But you just have to be respectful of that culture. For the most part, I find the Croatian people to be a lovely people, a wonderful people, and they have a great, great, beautiful love of the ocean and of each other, and, really, really nice folks. As you can hear in the background here, very nice people. These are the night staff that you may be hearing in the background here. Anyway, so as you come into challenges to your ego, Amelia, also, will you step in if you hear the noise levels going out of control?
Yeah, I will, of course, Chrism. So far, it's okay. I'll do that.
Thank you. So as you feel within your Kundalini equation, your ego start to take control. And what this can feel like is your irritability levels can skyrocket. Your irritability issues skyrocket. Excuse me, I'm taking off my jacket here. It's a little warm. Stand by.
Okay, that's...
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah, that was a little bit loud there, Chrism, but it's okay. It's gone quiet again.
Thank you. So your irritability levels can really skyrocket. What may have never bothered you before can become an extreme level of anxiety now. You need to take hold of yourself. Look at your irritability, look at the levels of anxiety, and pull back from expressing yourself, say, in a harsh or passionately angry level. And also make sure of, I have to say this, if you're practicing the safeties are at once, they are a standby moment. Just one moment, please.
We have more time for work.
Oh, okay.
A few minutes.
I'm in the hotel here, so I'm the audience photo. So yeah, I just spoke with the lady there, and anyway, first of all, I have to say this is a really nice hotel. The hotel here, and the ladies, and the gentlemen that are running the hotel, they're very nice, very considerate people. So I just want to say that. And if you do come to Croatia, as many people in Europe are doing, you come to this motel because it's really the only one open in the off season. So there you have it. As you are practicing the safeties are at the same time an energetically generative practice as well as a stability practice. So at the same time that you're stabilizing and helping to stabilize yourself within the Kundalini, you're also, through that stability and through that practice, you're allowing more energy to come in, which also brings to mind, I need you to really back off of the caffeine. Seriously back off of the caffeine. Especially if you're within the first 8 years of a Kundalini awakening, back off of the caffeine and the artificial sugars. Seriously, folks, this can really screw it up for you. Caffeine has a tendency to hyper-express through the adrenals, and the adrenals will pump out more fight-or-flee hormone into the bloodstream, which will in turn cause the person to want to fight or flee. And part of the whole fighting process is becoming argumentative, becoming afraid, responding to that fear in, say, a more difficult expression upon others, typically not on yourself, but more on the people outside of you. And that can have an extremely detrimental effect upon your family and your friends and perfect strangers who would otherwise be friends of yours, friends in the making. But, because of the high levels of anxiety that your caffeine intake is helping you have, you'll never have these people as friends. So really, back off of the caffeine as much as you can. Caffeine is not your friend in this case. So as the ego feels compelled to lash out at people, you need to pull it back. You need to rein it in. You put that tongue tip up behind your upper front teeth. let your fingers go into the Gyan Mudra, which is, 4 fingertip to thumb tip on both sides. And I'm talking about the tips, not the pads of the fingers and the thumb. Okay? And let yourself manage the ego rather than letting the ego manage you. It's extremely important. Come if you live in the inner city or you can't get out, go out to a wild environment. If you can find a way to get out to a beautiful island out here in the middle of the Adriatic, like the island of Vis in Croatia, then come out and do that. But really, really, really. Oh, by the way, I should say in Croatia, you never ever go barefoot into the ocean in Croatia because of the sea urchins. They will spear your feet. So you always need to wear shoes or they plastic shoes, things of that nature, so that you're not endangering yourself. But yeah, really, really begin to self-correct that ego. It can have an incredibly huge effect on the quality of your life and the quality of the people's lives who are around you. Please remember that during a Kundalini activity or awakening, you are like a broadcasting station. I mean, those people around you, they're feeling your thoughts. They may not hear your thoughts, but they're feeling your thoughts. They're feeling your anger. They're feeling your joy. They're feeling your bliss. They're feeling your anxiety or your fear. They're feeling these things, and it's very important for you to remember that. Especially when you're around the young ones, the children who are feeling it probably more so than the adults. So please remember that and do make your internal corrections, your ego-based corrections. If you'd like to call in to the program, the number is 347-934-0026. 347-934-0026. Don't feel that you have to go along with this topic. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions about your Kundalini awakening process. So call that number up, and Amelia will answer the phone, and she'll get you all ready to hook you up to me. Amelia, could you tell me how's the chat room developing?
Well, we have some guests in the chat room. We have Julie and Vashti and Steve and Sukha, and then some guests with numbers. So no questions.
Julie, stand by a moment. Hello, Julie, Vashti, Steve, and who is that?
Sukha.
Sukha. Hello. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining this, and wish you were all here at this hotel in Croatia. It'd be really fun to have a little party out here. I think it'd be nice to hear some Kundalini people out here having a good time. And all of the guests who are there with numbers after you, I would like to welcome you, and I'd like to welcome all the people that are listening in the archives in the future. And as I mentioned last program, I would like you to spread this program around. I don't really care about the notoriety, but I do care about the information getting out. And this is good information to get out. Boy, I tell you, when you're in a country that has been so recently involved in such a devastating conflict, you can see the actual effect on the environment, just the plants and the animals, of such an out of control ego society. I'm gonna put a word out right now that many of you will not know, and it's called the word is egregore. E-G-R-E-G-O-R-E. An egregore is a consciousness that is created by many other consciousness that are within a similar thought stream or a similar attitude about life or a similar attitude about whatever goal might be presented to those consciousness. That egregore becomes its own being in a way. And the egregore of here we go, lights are going out. and the egregore of a society that is being ruled by the ego can be quite strong. And because you're Kundalini awakened, the egregore of your 17 trillion consciousness or cellular consciousness can also be quite strong. Let's do our best not to go at war with ourselves or with our family, friends, or strangers. Let's do our best not to be ravaged by such a difficult situation. I have a person that's been emailing me, and he asked me for advice, and I gave him advice, and he didn't like the advice, or his ego didn't like the advice, and so he just kind of lit into me for a few posts, and went into a litany about my issues as a teacher of the Kundalini and whatnot. And the next post I get, he sends it to me and then plus all of his friends, and basically the title of his note: Hi everybody. This is his name, and I think I'm going to commit suicide on Monday. I've got the Nembutal tablets and whatever else, another component that I forget. And I know that he's not going to listen to me, but this is the kind of war that a person can have when they're not willing to accept the changes that the Kundalini brings to them, when they're not willing to stop the old life and begin to embrace the new life. Now, this person, they did very similar things that I did. They tried to drown it in, various chemicals or various ideologies, and, it's just not going to work. It's not going to work because Kundalini will have its way with you no matter what. And so this person is still within their suicide spiral at the moment. And, certainly the prayers are going out to that person. But this is the kind of thing that can occur when an ego is in a terrible resistance to change. A terrible resistance to change. And, you expand it outward, you have a Croatia and a Serbia. You expand it to a societal level. But you don't have to go there. You really don't have to go there. You as an individual, as a Kundalini awakening individual, what I like to term a saint in training. You as a Kundalini awakening individual, you need to be able to make the mature choice. You need to be able to take that inner child, sit them down, let them know that they are no longer in charge, but that their input is appreciated when it's asked for. Seriously, do this. Don't hold back from that, because it can have some fairly rough consequences if you do. Let me see here. Hi, Eileen. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
What do you think of this topic? How can you relate to this at all?
Well, when you were talking about egregore, if that's how you pronounce it, I was thinking in terms of the membership of the caste group forming spiritual or positive egregore. Is that also possible?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Eileen. And your beautiful self has hit upon the action, the other action of the egregore can be of a very positive, helpful, and healing quality. So you're right on the mark, Eileen.
Well, and I noticed there was a post just recently of someone asking for some information and for some help, and another member said you might be receiving Shaktipat or energetics from the group, and so that would be the positive egregore in a Kundalini sense, at least in my mind. So Yes, I'm enjoying your discussion here.
Put you on the spot, didn't I?
And yeah, you did. And I just looked up Viz, and beautiful, just beautiful.
Yeah. So I think it's pronounced Vis, V-I-S, Vis. Yeah.
Yeah, and it would be wonderful if we could all be there.
Yeah, we'll have to make that. Well, thank you, Eileen. Thank you. I'm going to put you back into listening mode here.
Okay.
And coming over here to Her Holiness, Miss Rosemary. Hello, Rosemary.
Hi. Good afternoon, or evening. I'm sorry. Good.
Actually, it's 12:30 in the morning, but thank you. Yes. How can you relate to this this aspect of our conversation?
Well, it's very timely. There are some things in the relationship I have with my step family, but they're family to me next door. And I was seeing my response to it as strength, and it is really for me strength to know where I stand on something and having to talk with them about it. But I could see the opportunity for being irate and really offended. And I am happy to say I didn't go there, at least not yet. I haven't had the actual conversation with them, but I was pleased with an awareness that this work has given me.
Well, very good, my dear. Yeah, go ahead.
And this is helpful because I will pay closer attention. I notice if something is upset about me that I'll pace, I'll be disorganized, I'm not settled, not getting work done. That is the kind of uneasiness like that. And probably more of mine is like that. I'm not engaged in the workforce, and I'm doing the work for the seminar coming up, but that's at a pace that's manageable so far. But really pay attention.
It's good for you to kind of be in the middle of a situation that allows these levels of anxiety and fear to be dealt with in a direct fashion. So yeah, this ties right in to what we're talking about here, and do your best to stay balanced and to keep that ego under control. Okay.
Mhm.
All right, I'm going to put you. Oh, go ahead. You're
saying I've run my life by that part of me for a long time, in a not a rough shod way of the ego, but managing things. And I've said on posts a number of times that I don't have a lot of destructive things around me, or even being panicked, because I have managed my life to just ignore those things. So
I don't necessarily want. I don't want you to ignore this. If you ignore it, you just you put it on a back burner. I want you to really work with it, and I want you to really begin to look at the deep internal foundations of the unease and the anxiety, and look to where those qualities may be trying to distort or to come through in an amplified fashion, with your Kundalini activation. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Rosemary, I'm going to put you back in listening mode. I'm going to come on over and thank you, my dear. I'm going to come on over here to Amelia Santara. Amelia, how has your Kundalini awakening equation responded to this subject?
Well, Chrism, I'm thinking about, you were speaking about the environment, that's there and that we all experience. And, it can be very difficult in certain environments, external environments that are, intruding, and the internal environment, and, where ego is expressing strongly. And I was thinking, in terms of the safeties, how I can change my, make that internal correction become an external correction, through the safeties. And, the things like tolerance and patience and things like that are called for from me when there's anxiety and fear and all of that. And the thing that I have found that covers those things is kindness. To be kind can actually bring a correction into my external environment and my internal at the same time. It's not that easy, actually, at times, to do. But it helps if I make that an action, because it speaks directly to my irritability if I'm being kind. So I find, for me, to do some external action causes, it's to do with forgiveness as well, because when that's going on, there's a level of intolerance there's a forgiveness being called for. So I suppose one of the things that works for me is like an umbrella act of kindness in the immediate, and that's been very helpful for me.
Well, I think that's a very good point, and I agree. And I think that kindness is an internal and external component of the higher mental functioning. I'm getting an echo from you, Amelia. I'm going to put you on the listening mode here.
Okay.
And it's definitely a strong quality, and there's an old saying here that you give a healing and you get a healing. And Amelia, you give a lot of healings, and I think that the natural tendency to begin to insert kindness into a difficult situation is wonderful quality. It's a wise action, and it's an effective action too. So yeah, absolutely. So now, if there are anybody who is listening live right now and you want to call in, go ahead and call in at 347-934-0026. Each of these folks have brought up some excellent issues, and I know that some of you out there are sharing some of the difficulties that shall we say, an ego under stress of its own control over your life is having right now inside of the Kundalini. Amelia mentioned, the effect on the external environment, and I want to talk a little bit more about the external environment that is happening here in Croatia and in Bosnia. I think I'll be going to Bosnia later on this week. There is a lasting consequence to having an out-of-control ego begin to assert its way within a Kundalini awakening example. And just as there are 1.5 million landmines that are laid secretly in the ground where nobody really knows in this country, people have had their legs blown off here on the island of Vis. I think the last one occurred in 2005. But it's happening. It's happening in other areas of the country here. Also in Bosnia, they have 2.5 million. It's a devastation of the ego. It's a devastation of anger and of fear, of offense and defense at the same time. And it is the environment that takes the hit. The deer that step on it, the horse that steps on it, the cow that steps on it, whatever animal that weighs, similar to the weight of a human steps on a landmine, well, it gets blown up too, as do the people who don't know, what is occurring. Now out here, for the landmine areas that they know, they actually, put a fence around it, and they put a sign out there, and it says, a red death's head and don't cross this. Well, we don't have that availability within the Kundalini awakening equation to put a red death's head over it and say, don't talk to me now, I'm having I'm having a problem. We have to solve the problem ourselves. We have to find our own inner landmines so that our external environment is not polluted by an internal imbalance. It's very important that you do this, because these things can flow just out of the blue, and the person you're talking with or interacting with is going, my God, what the heck happened to that Chrism character? He's so volatile. Maybe I won't ask him out to the barbecue on Sunday or something like that. I mean, stuff like that can begin to affect your outside social environment. And that can turn around and have an effect directly on your inner social environment. Because from a higher mental functioning self context, that you shouldn't be going off on people, because they're not really part of the problem. The only problem that you're having is between your ego and the Kundalini awakening expansion that's happening within you. That's the issue that is really the cause of your anxiety. And so it's not the person that you're talking with. And you really need to remember that. It's not the person, it's not your cat, not your dog, not your boss, not that stranger on the street, not the person that cuts you off on the highway. Okay? It's you, your ego, and your Kundalini. And the balance that you need to find within those components. Okay? So if any of you have any kind of an issue with your Kundalini awakening experience, feel free to call this number, 347-934-0026. And I'll be glad to help you as much as I may. Now, within the Kundalini awakening experience, there's a possibility that you may have a tendency to remember some past life interactions that have occurred. And what can happen here is, and it's apropos to this subject here, is what can happen is you may all of a sudden feel a terrible, terrible, terrible burden of guilt or sorrow or anxiety over an issue that you're not really a part of in this life, and yet there it is, and it's weighing you down, and your Kundalini is amplifying your sensitivity to it. I want you to remember to just forgive yourself no matter what. You must forgive yourself. We've all made mistakes, and this is how we learn. This is how we evolve. This is how we're able to find our balance. We have to explore one side of the equation on over to the other side of the equation as well. We have to some degree, we have to explore the polarities of our human experience, and not just in this life stream expression, but in other life stream expressions too. And so when you have these unfounded levels of sorrow or guilt or anger or fear that has no foundation that you can find in this life, go ahead and forgive it anyway. It's not going to hurt you, and it can, in many ways, it can greatly alleviate the situation. This world is a classroom for first developing a level of life expression that allows you to approach exalted states of human divinity. That's a great big statement. And it's a fancy way of saying, this world is a place where we have where we're in a classroom of evolution, of refinement toward a spiritual evolution that gives us an expanded understanding of what it is to be in a body and embracing a greater state of being, a greater state of awareness. So, it's not the easiest thing. And we're going to make mistakes along the way. And some of those mistakes are going to be severe. And some of those mistakes will have formed the karma that you're living or that you had to go through in your early childhood. And you may ask yourself, oh, my God, why did I have such a horrible childhood? I was molested. My parents were alcoholics and drug addicts, and they committed suicide. And I was I can just paint a very terrible picture with it. And that is part of the checks and balancing of the system that we're in, of the spiritual evolutionary system that we're in. It's about making the mistakes and balancing those mistakes, balancing the tickets, so to speak. Okay? And certainly as a child, children are where a lot of our karmas are played out because we're so helpless as children. We depend on our parents. We depend on the adults around us. And that is where a lot of our karma will take place. And so you need to forgive. You need to forgive yourself. And don't hang on to the level of hurt and disappointment that you may have experienced as a child. Realize that this is karma. This is karma, okay? And, it is definitely making you stronger. It is definitely helping you on your refinement path towards a greater spiritual evolution. That's what karma does. It's not there to punish. It's there to balance. And balance is what we want. We want that middle path. We can see one side on the left, one side on the right, but we're walking the middle path. We're walking the Shisumna. We're walking the spinal cord. As our Kundalini is the vehicle that pushes us further and further and further into the divine-made flesh, or the flesh-made divine. Okay? If you have any questions or comments about this, feel free to call 347-934-0026. Wow, it got really quiet in here. It's so nice. Today at 5:30 in the morning, I'll be taking a ferry back to Split. And the name of this is actually Split, Banana Split. So it's there. Very beautiful area here. The water is amazing. The water has a quality of blue that is just amazing. Totally sacred male. Amazing stuff. Very Kundalini. Very Kundalini. But as you go into their areas here, into these environments, there are places you just cannot go. I think 14 or 15 counties have been closed due to mindful situations. And so don't let that happen to your interior environment. Don't let that happen. Begin to make corrective self-corrections on your ego and how the ego chooses to express itself within a Kundalini awakening environment. And yeah, you're going to be challenged. Wow, that was loud. Part of the whole thing is how you respond to those challenges. Really. How do you choose to respond to your Kundalini awakening induced ego challenges? And then what are you going to do? How do you self-correct? What mannerism do you choose to express through? Do you become angry? Do you become happy? Do you become, or do you try out, do little mock performances in your mind of a hurtful situation, but at the same time, do you add in a corrective healing measure to that hurtful situation, if not for others, then at least for yourself. You don't need the anxiety that a Kundalini awakening can bring. It can bring pretty tremendous levels of anxiety. And frankly, unless you do need it, which if you do need it, then you will experience it. But for the most part, you can begin to make self-corrections. And this is what the Kundalini wants you to do anyway. Okay, the Kundalini is a conscious, self-aware force within you. It's following your progress. Some of you may even get physiologically expressive movements that will indicate that the Kundalini is listening to what you do and seeing what you do, and is in agreement or not with what you do. You'll either have a great intuitive feeling about it, or it'll actually, in some cases, give you an actual thumbs up, or a minor kriya, like a little spasm when you're discussing things. I have one student that I'm traveling with right now, and we'll be talking about certain options that we have within ethical and morality-based problems that may arise within a person's Kundalini awakening experience, and when the right moral and ethical response is being discussed, well, that person will get a kriya right there, a short little kriya, not a big honking, on the floor, twisted up kriya, but just you can just visually see the energy shoot up their spine out the top of their head. They have like a little mini spinal sweep. Kind of cool to see. And over the years, you can see that, this is responding to very, very high levels of moral self-correction, ethical self-correction. And so do that for yourself. Take the time to feel and think about different moral situations that are coming up in your life. Is somebody trying to cheat you out of money? Is somebody trying to cheat you out of land? Is somebody trying to cheat you out of an inheritance or out of something that's been bequeathed to you? Is somebody trying to move in on your relationship? Is somebody trying to, all of these different scenarios have moral and ethical implications. And I'm not going to give you a blanket generalized statement, oh, you just do this, this, and that. Well, I will. I should give you one about, say, try to be as forgiving as you can. But just because you're Kundalini awakened doesn't mean you're a doormat. Okay? Don't leave yourself open to having those types of energies present themselves to you. Just because you're Kundalini awakening doesn't mean you have to suffer. Certainly not at the hands of others who are in their own refinement process and maybe, failing that certain classroom. Okay? So you can be forgiving and you can be strong at the same time. And you can say, hey, wait a minute. This is in the contract, and this says that such and such is being given to me, and this is something that I really feel is necessary for my happiness in this existence, or at least part of my happiness, and I'm going to have that, and I'm not going to let you take it. Okay. I don't want you to feel that you just need to roll over and let people walk all over you, because that is absolutely not the case. Let's look at one of the top animals that Kundalini comes as. There's two, actually. Well, there's three. There's the serpent. You don't want to step on a serpent, and a Kundalini serpent can turn into a viper very, very quickly. Okay. And the second one is a tiger. How many people are going to argue with a tiger that doesn't have a chain around its neck? Okay, and the third is a spider. And let me tell you, just like the serpent, you don't want to stick your finger in that spider's web. Certainly not the spider that we saw over there at the Hill of the Witch, and with Bruku. You know, he came in there and he found all the spiders. Hats off to you, Bruku. So yeah, you're not a victim, and you can stand up for yourself, and you can say, hey, this, in all levels of fairness and all levels of grace, you can say, hey, no, this is mine, and I'm going to use this the way my Kundalini helps me to do this. Now, if your Kundalini says to you or gives you the inclination, it's like, hey, we're not talking about something that you really need within your activation equation at this time, and don't worry about it. Well, then don't worry about it. Take that clue. Make that adjustment. Okay? Trust in your Kundalini. Seriously, folks. Trust in your Kundalini. I'm not a wealthy guy. Because I don't charge for these teachings. A lot of people kind of look at me quizzically, like, what? You don't charge? How do you live? Well, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to do. But I trust in the Kundalini, and I trust in the Kundalini to help me give a level of information and a level of security through that information to people that, if they feel like donating, then they can do that. And there's no set donate. There's no expected. What do they call that? A love offering. There's no expected love offering. There's just whatever you feel like doing. So I trust the Kundalini, and I'm gonna exhort you to also trust your Kundalini. Your Kundalini will help you. I'm not talking about entities now. Let's make a big difference between entities. Entities typically will only mimic ethical values or moral values. They won't be able to exhibit them. They don't really chase them too hard. In many ways, entities are sent by the Kundalini in order for you to hone your own ethical and moral expressions. And as that occurs in those entities, well, a lot of entity situations go within 6 weeks of an awakening or a spinal sweep. So, they don't last forever. Okay, so really, really, really trust your Kundalini. It will help you. It doesn't mean that you don't pursue those things that the Kundalini may have arranged to have occur for you, like a bequeathment or a relationship that is positive, things of that nature. You can protect that which is coming to you through the grace of the Kundalini. You can go out and get it without being, overly egocentric about it. Okay, so understand that you are not a victim. You are not a victim. You're a hero. You're a superhero, if anything. Okay? Now, if you have any questions about that, you can call 347-934-0026. And I believe Amelia has some announcements she would like to make.
Yes. First of all, Steve is just saying in the chat room there that he is enjoying it and what he's listening to sounds great. He's no questions and he's listening and learning. So thanks, Steve, for that.
Hello, Steve. Thank you for writing. Nice to hear from you. Go ahead.
I would like to give the email or the website address where people can go if they would like to make a donation to the work that Chrism does and support that work. And the address is www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com. And on the upper right-hand corner, you will see a donate button. And when you press that, it's easy to go from there. So the address again is www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com. And again, as Chrism said earlier, nothing is expected. There is no set. Whatever it is that you would wish to donate yourself will be gratefully received. If you're in a position to do that, that is indeed wonderful. I would like to also say that Rosemary's seminar is coming up in September, and if we could just go over to Rosemary there and just ask her for some details about that, Chrism.
And here she is. Hello, Rosemary.
Thank you, Amelia. And it will be, as many of you know, the end of September, 27th and 28th. And we have that venue set and pretty close to having a cost. And we have set also an early registration the end of July. That would help people. We're making calls and doing presenting the documentary film that we have. First one coming up on May 13th. So Eileen and I are working on getting things ready for that and what we can provide for people. And doing our best really right now to get things set up locally. And my heart is really committed that there be people, a lot of people here from the Twin Cities and neighboring states as well, so that there will be
and Canada
here.
And Canada,
yes.
Yeah,
we do have.
And Eileen, is there anything you'd like to say, Eileen?
Yes, I'm here. I'm looking forward to the seminar. I think Rosemary's doing a wonderful job. We have contacted, and she's actually physically going to places and putting out flyers. We've contacted many centers and agencies, and there seems to be a lot of interest, and that to me is really exciting. And I'm very blessed to be working with Rosemary, and I look forward to meeting a lot of the members at the end of September.
Well, thank you, Eileen. Yeah, I look forward to seeing all of you and Rosemary included, and any of the members that we can have come up. So thank you for your share in organizing that, Eileen. And thank you, Rosemary, for your organizational efforts as well.
What's Rosemary's address? If I'm listening, Rosemary, and I'm interested in getting more information, how can I go about doing that? Could you give us your email address?
Thank you. Surely. My email address is rosemaryg@usinternet.com. And just drop me an email, rosemaryg@usinternet.com, and I will answer your question and provide the information. And people have different questions, and it's really kind of fun to be answering that and be part of people's process and know that is being considered seriously. So let me know.
Well, thank you, Rosemary. Thank you for bringing that out and for your organizational efforts and all of these things. And this, it's not often that you can come to an awakening seminar. In the early part of my experience, I had nobody. And you can. I mean, those of you who are Kundalini awakened right now, listening to this, you know how lonely it can be. You know how lost and lonely and devastating it can be to your reality matrix. So when you come to these seminars, not only are you receiving information, but you're meeting other people. You're meeting other people, and you're making a network, and you're developing friendships, and that can last the rest of your life. It's a very, very positive, beneficial place to experience other people that are also going through the Kundalini awakening experience. Wonderful, wonderful opportunity as we had, and we experienced, Amelia and I, in both New York and in Newgrange, Ireland. Wonderful, wonderful people come to these seminars, and I will encourage you to come and attend one. I'd like to also encourage you for more information about your Kundalini awakening process, aspects of it. Go to KundaliniAwakeningSystems1.com. That's the number 1.com. Excuse me a moment. I didn't bring my usual bottle of water here, so I'm suffering talking. It's like a monologue for 2 hours. But the Kundalini streams it. I would like you to go to KundaliniAwakeningSystems1.com, or on the YouTube network, just go to Chrism Kundalini and you'll land on one of the videos that I've done. So that's Chrism Kundalini on the YouTube network. We're also on the Yahoo group, which is Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 at Yahoo Groups, and Kundalini Healing at Yahoo Groups. And we also have a Tantra site that I'm not teaching so much Tantra these days, but it's still there, the Tantra site, Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 Tantra. Also on Facebook, we have Kundalini Awakening ! And that is a very, very active and very, very helpful group. We also have Kundalini Awakening Systems 2 on the Facebook network, and we have Kundalini Healing on Facebook networks as well. And we have public and private groups on the Facebook network. So if you'd like to visit us there, feel free to do that as well. And I would like to put out a thank you to Amelia Santara and John O'Connor and their 6 children and 1 dog and 1 cat, and 324 for providing the revenue for this radio program to go out. We're over 1.5 years old now, and we've been doing this pretty much once a week. I think we took a break during the New Year's, Christmas type of thing. But we've been trying to do this every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I just want to say thank you to Amelia Santara and John O'Connor for allowing this to occur at all. So thank you both, Amelia and John. You guys are absolute saints, Kundalini saints all the way. I would also like to thank Glenn Ola for the creation and maintenance of the Kundalini Awakening Systems1.com website that a lot of people have had access to and have been able to help themselves within the Kundalini understandings that they've been exposed to through his website. So thank you, Glenn. So just a little bit of gratitude there, a lot of gratitude actually for various people that have done these things to put this program together for you, listener, for you. Okay. So as we continue with this conversation, make the necessary self-corrections. Do it immediately as you can. I'm not saying that you can't feel the anger or the remorse or the sadness or the anxiety if you want. And sometimes you don't really have much of a choice. It's a knee-jerk response. But once it occurs, make the correction and try not to do it again. Do your best to change your ways. I don't care how old you are. I'm older than most of you listening to this. You can change your ways. I'm typically a kind of an outgoing person when I'm walking around in public. I don't have a problem meeting strangers. But here in Croatia, they're not positioned that way. Now, I did meet one guy on the ferry over here. He was very, very helpful. And I could tell that the Shakti had arranged this meeting, and so I could have just avoided it. I could have just walked away. That thought flashed through my head. No. The Shakti's trying to tell me something here. I'm gonna look at this. I met him. Nice man. Very, very agreeable. Lived 6 months in Australia and then another 6 months here on the island of Vis in Croatia. And he told us all about the island, and he told us about, from a he's a native Croatian man, and he told us about all the difficulties that the Croatia has, and the different things and places to see on the island, and the Blue Cave to go visit when all of this stuff. Very, very helpful, and I was very happy that I took notice of his deep red luggage, and it stopped me, and it triggered in me Kundalini message. Got it. Okay. All right. Now it wasn't just the color, but the actual message itself that came through as I saw the governor. And so we had a nice chat with him. But I can change. I can change how I am with people on purpose. I cannot look them straight in the eye if they see that as a challenge. Okay, I can help them be where they need to be at the time they need to be it. Right? So can you. As a Kundalini individual, you can really, really, really begin to adjust, and in whatever way you need to adjust, in order to not overamp the people around you. Now, your Kundalini will turn itself up and down. Have no worries about that. And those people who need to be in a strong, energetic radiance of your Kundalini awakening field, they will be in that radiance. So, no accidents there. Okay, but when you're in a foreign country or in just a different part of the country that you live in where you don't know everybody, and maybe they have certain customs, like I know in the southern part of the United States, it's very different from California. Of course, the rest of the nation of the United States might say California is very different from the rest of the United States, which is probably true. But there are certain mannerisms and certain considerations that we take in order to allow people to feel comfortable. And this is the type of thing that I will suggest you do, unless your Kundalini, gives you a reason to do otherwise. But make sure it's from your Kundalini and not from your ego or from an entity that is couching itself as the Kundalini, which sometimes does occur. If you have any questions about these or other topics with your Kundalini awakening experience, the number is United States 347-934-0026. My name is Chrism, and right now I am broadcasting from Croatia, the island of Vis, in the middle of the Adriatic Ocean. So give me a call if you have any questions about that. With regards to your inner environment, realize that you have certain buttons that normally it's your family knows how to push. And, I certainly, I remember my early Kundalini awakening experience. I couldn't even be around my family. Seriously, I excommunicated my family for 2 or 3 years. Just couldn't be around that. It was just too strong, and everything else was just going so, in my opinion at the time, wrong for me. I was really, really struggling with what was happening to me, why I felt a snake in my spine, and literally something that was moving and wriggling. Boy, you talk about a long parasite there. It's like, geez Louise, what is going on? Nobody to talk with, nobody to talk to, but you certainly didn't want to be around people that could push your emotional buttons. And I'm not saying to you to excommunicate your family. What I'm saying is that you have a lot more information just by virtue of this one program than I had in years and years of a Kundalini awakening experience. Okay, you have in this one program a level of information that can really, really save you and save your relationships with your family. So take it and use it. Don't just let this be a radio program that you go, oh yeah, okay, well I agree with all that he said, or I agree with some of what he said, or I don't agree with anything that he said. Take it and use it as best that you can within your Kundalini awakening equation. It's very important that you do this. It's very important that you take information that your Kundalini is sending to you and sending you to. Take that information and utilize it. Bring it into an active expression in your life. In your Kundalini awakening life. Make use of this in real-time scenarios. Take it beyond listening to this program on your computer or on the telephone, however you're hearing it. Take it beyond that. And for those of you in the archives, the same message. You know, I'm talking to the future people, the people who are listening to this in the future. Take this information and utilize it. Your Kundalini has brought you to it. It's just like a red suitcase for me. Take this information and make it part of your Kundalini awakening equation, and you will be so much happier for it, I promise you. You will be so blessed to have that level of information within your active expressing Kundalini awakening equation right now. Okay? Do this. And don't think that you're not evolving inside your Kundalini awakening experience. You know, some of you have awakened your Kundalini through the practice of transcendental meditation. And some of you have done it for 30 years, and some of you did it for 30 days. Either way, the Kundalini awakened because of it. And it started you on a path of spiritual evolution in real time. TM, I think, is a great service that the Maharishi gave into the United States, and it may sound like I'm changing the subject, but I'm not. Bear with me here. He gave this into the United States, and there's even a city right now called Fairfield, Iowa, that is really built up around the teachings of the Maharishi and the transcendental meditation people. Well, I have a lot of students come to me because they've awakened their Kundalini through transcendental meditation, TM for short. Not saying that you have to have TM in order to awaken your Kundalini. It's just the level of meditation, and if your Kundalini is going to awaken within you, you can do any kind of meditation, and it will happen. It will happen. Okay, but in addition to the TM situation, I'm offering you a transcendental emotional meditation where you meditate on your emotions and you let them become balanced. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to feel lost or sad or abandoned, because you're not. Yeah, there's not a lot of people around you right now that are having the same level of Kundalini that you're having, or at all, you know, from an awakening perspective. But you're not lost. There are many, many other people like you having Kundalini awakening right now in the very different degrees that they have it. Okay? Eileen, she'll have her Kundalini expressed to her in one way, and Rosemary in her way, and Amelia in her way, and Chrism in his way. You know, it's not the same for everybody. Okay, so your emotional involvement and the emotional excesses will not always be the same either. Sometimes we turn the emotional anxiety against our own self. And I don't want you don't need to go there. Okay, if you're hearing this program, and you're in the middle of, say, turning your Kundalini awakening experience into a level of guilt or a level of self, not defilement, that's the word that came, but self-hurt. If you have an inner dialogue with yourself that's saying, oh gosh, I'm just such a fool here, I got these weird spontaneous Kriya type things, and I'm a joke and I'm a clown, and you walk around and you couching it in a form of humor, you make jokes about yourself all the time. Don't do that either. Honor what is happening to you. Validate what is happening with you. Validate your Kundalini experience to yourself and train that ego not to feel so strange about it. I mean, that's a tall order, I admit, but you don't have to advertise your feelings of despair, your feelings of self-invalidation. You don't have to advertise that. You don't even have to have it. Okay? You don't have to have it. If you are, having those types of expressions, just make the self-correction. Honor who it is you are. Honor your Kundalini. I'm not saying blow your horn or brag about it or, pound your fists against your chest saying, yeah, I'm Kundalini awakened. I mean, you could do that if you want, but I'm suggesting you go a different route. Validate it. Do this first within yourself. That's really the only place you really need to do it. You don't need to externalize your self-validation. That will happen automatically. As you validate yourself internally and you begin to make your self-corrections internally, that alone is a form of self-validation. Now, some of you may have awakened your Kundalini doing astral projection. See, a lot of astral projection, or what some folks like to call soul travel. And this is a form of phenomena, and so you can become a little more addicted to phenomena than may be healthy for you. Self-correct. Realize that it's not all about phenomena. It's clearly 1/3 of the equation is about coming into balance within yourself with it. Not losing yourself to irritability or anxiety or fear or anger or sadness. Don't do that. You don't need to go that way. You practice those safeties at KundaliniAwakeningSystems1.com. Go to the left-hand menu. It's the 5th item down on the menu there. Click on that and, read those. Practice those daily. As much as you can. And it will have a very, very positive effect on your Kundalini awakening experience. Make those self-corrections. Don't get too addicted into the phenomena. If you're astral projecting or soul traveling, that's already a phenomena that is leading you towards the Kundalini. Okay? I was doing that before I, had the awakening in this body. So yeah, that's another way. That's like TM or, any of the other, the 5 Tibetans, any of the other systems like yoga that can activate the Kundalini. Well, astral travel can do that too. Soul travel can do that. So can lucid dreaming, coming awake inside the dream. But make sure that if you start feeling past life issues that really, you have no idea where that's coming from. It doesn't relate to anything that you've experienced in your life. Because it's not of that life, this current life. It's from another one, a different one. Okay? Don't feel that any aspect of your soul journey through this terrestrial life is bad or don't have a negative judgment against it. We've all had to make hard choices in the many lives that we've had to come into the expression, to build up to the expression of a Kundalini awakening experience. Don't judge yourself because you're not that person anymore. That was another person. That person died. Okay, you're living some of that karma right now. But you don't need to go through the pain anymore. And if the pain is coming up, then just forgive it. Let the Kundalini cleanse that from your system. I do this. I'll feel like I was, even before the show today, I was taking a quick nap because right now it's 1:23 in the morning here. And I wanted to make sure that I was somewhat awake, for this broadcast. And all of a sudden I woke up with a jolt and I was like, whoa, wow, what was that? I feel so horrible. What a And then I looked into it and said, oh, okay, that's from another time. Got it. Forgiven. It is that easy. You can self-correct that easy. Okay? And everything that the Kundalini allows you to feel has a level of teaching involved with it. But sometimes the teaching is just having the self-correction occur. And if the experience that you're having is in such a linear context, it can really, you can really kind of see, well, A plus B equals C, and it's very easy to understand. Fine, then take that lesson, because the Kundalini is bringing it to you right now, and forgive it. Take the information, apply it to your current situation. Like if you were a used car salesman in your past life and you were cheating people out of money, then make sure you don't do that at all in any way, shape, or form in this life. If that's the dream or the information that came to you, the intuition. Make that self-correction. And if you're getting it now, it may be a precognitive scenario too. So make sure that you make that self-correction and then recognize as this opportunity comes to you, say, yes, I made that self-correction. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to cheat that person out of money. I'm not going to do this or that. That was something that was done in another life, a lack of ethics. Make that change. If you have anything that you'd like to talk about within your Kundalini awakening experience, then call United States number 347-934-0026, and Amelia will pick you up, and she'll direct you on over to the broadcast booth here. So I am going to wait just a little bit here. I'll bring Amelia on, see if she has anything she would like to say about this. Hello, Amelia. Are you listening? Are you awake? Hello?
I'm riveted to this talk, Chrism. No, seriously, I am. I am, when I'm listening to you that I have various, I get various experiences, while I'm listening. Now, this time listening to you, they're speaking about how important it is, not to turn emotional anxiety against the self, and how important it is that if we have past life guilt that, we know are there, but how important it is that we don't have this, inner dialogue, because I know I've had that, and you taught me about that before, about how not to do that and how not to invalidate the self, and in other words, how to validate the self. And, listening there to your conversation, I really want to thank you too, because it's so important for people to have this information. I want to thank you for providing it. From your own Kundalini experience and from your Kundalini. And all the people that are here, have been guided by their Kundalini. And for you to be doing this is so, so important. So I want to thank you, because you've been doing it every single Wednesday. And I just want to validate that, I suppose. I'm very grateful for it, as I'm sure everybody else who's listening is also. So thank you so much, Chrism.
Thank you, Amelia. Yeah, and
I just want to say as well, Chris Harris was in the room there for a little while, but she's logged out again. Yeah.
Hello, Chris. Hello.
Yeah. So Chris was with us in New York, and she actually just came in as you were speaking about the seminar. So I'd like to say hello to her as well.
Chris is awesome. She lives in New York. She's an awesome woman. So any of you New Yorkers. She's great. She's a great contact to have, and she's fully in the awakening mode. So tip my hat to you, Chris.
Hi, Chris. And Chris, I'm wondering if I may ask, have you done any videos? Will we be seeing that beautiful blue sea?
I'm saying, ask your question again. What was that?
Have you been able to do any videos? Will we be seeing that beautiful blue-colored sea at any stage on YouTube?
Well, no, I haven't. I didn't do any videos in France this time, and I plan on doing some videos along the Dalmatian coast. And if we get up to Medjugorje there in Bosnia, I plan on doing a video there, and I plan on doing some videos at the. I'm gonna destroy this name. The really pretty lakes that they have in Croatia. We'll be leaving on the 5:30 a.m. ferry this morning, and having baptized ourselves in the cold Adriatic. It's cold right now, but in the summer it's supposed to get down or up to around 80 degrees. But right now I think it was around 58 degrees. But I liked it. My Kundalini liked it. My student had a bit of an issue with it, but they went in. So I went in, and I want to thank you for those swim goggles that we picked up at that used, what do they call it, Salvation Army type store. They worked great, Amelia. They were the best ones out of the two that we got. So when I went into the Adriatic, I went down under the water, and I was swimming, and they have schools of fish that swim not just like maybe 2-3 feet away from you. Very beautiful. They look like angelfish. It was very, very beautiful. The color of the water is exceptionally clear. Exceptionally clear. And I must say that the whole reason for coming to Vis, I didn't even know Vis existed a year ago. Had no idea. But one of the students had a Kundalini dream where they were told to go to the island of Vis in 3 separate dreams. This is a person that is very much in contact with their Kundalini within the dream state. And they contacted me and asked me if I would accompany them to Croatia. And wow, what an amazing, and this person had amazing experiences even before they even got in the water. But the Kundalini wanted them to stay along the coast. We ventured inland. We ventured into an area called Tito's Cave, where Tito, the guy that held Yugoslavia together as a communist country, while World War II was going on, he would hide out in this cave and he would broadcast his instructions to hold the Yugoslavia Federation together during World War II. And this is actually where one of the people lately got their legs blown off by a landmine. And so, of course, we weren't getting out of the car. And we drove all the way up to the military station up there. The inland environment is not the nicest, but it's very interesting because so many different cultures have lived here. The Greeks were here in about 500 BC. The Greeks were here, and then, of course, the Carthaginians, and then the Romans, and then, moving on up to modern-day Croatia. There are piles of stones and archaeological things that you could go out and see if there were not landmines. But because there are landmines, you just don't even want to go off the pavement. Okay, because they haven't found them all. They haven't found them all. And frankly, I wouldn't want any of my students or myself to accidentally find one. So, it's a very, very beautiful place. It's a very sacred male place. This is something that I'll share with you that happened to me today. I asked the student to do a certain meditation to find out what the Kundalini was asking of them to do with regards to going into the water, into the Adriatic. And we were sitting in a tourist office, and I just kind of went into a little meditation myself, and my eyes landed on the name of Vis, V-I-S, and then it just turned the letters around to S-I-V. And as some of you may know, Shiva, which is the Sanskrit term for sacred male, is sometimes spelled S-I-V and pronounced Shiv. And And I got that, and all of a sudden got it. Then this information flooded into me about the sacred male qualities of this island and of its culture, the current culture that it's inhabiting this island, and how important this was for the student. And the student also, when they looked at it, they saw the sea turn red like the first chakra. And so it was really they weren't so much diving into the Adriatic as they were diving into their first chakra. And so it turned into a very, very powerful experience for both of us going into the Adriatic, as cold as it was. And, we found a place with as few sea urchins as possible. They really do cover a lot of the sea floor. You don't want to stand up down there. It's pretty spiny. But the water is exceptionally clear, exceptionally blue, and you'll see it as we go up the Dalmatian coast, and I do a few videos. I'm going to try to get into close proximity to the coast and to the water there and do some videos that way, as well as the Plavice lakes up there that some of you may have seen pictures of. They're absolutely phenomenally gorgeous. They're a UN-protected site, as is this hotel that we're in. The island of Vis is a quality of UN protection as well. Any of these islands in the Adriatic, and as some of you may know, in Florida you have an area called the 10,000 Islands. Well, they have the same thing here in the Adriatic, the 10,000 islands of the Adriatic, and Vis is the biggest, most furthest island out from the Croatian mainland. Really, from Vis, the next stop is the coast of Italy, about 80, 90 miles away. And it's absolutely gorgeous here. For those of you who are in Europe, literally, from Dublin, you're about maybe 3 hours away. If you're in France or Germany or England, if you're in France or Germany, you're really... If you drive to Switzerland and take off from Basel or Geneva, you're literally like an hour and a half away. That's how fast the flight was. We took off from Basel, and it's really, really. It's in the European backyard. European folks, I don't care if you're in Finland or England or Ireland or France or Spain, Portugal. This place is really worth a visit. And this is the Tamarin, I believe, the Tamarin Hotel. You go into the rooms and they're all in white. I really enjoyed this. The curtains are white, the bed sheets are white, the blankets are white. Everything's white. And you open up the window and it opens out to this beautiful bay. That has this old ancient church right across the bay. You can see it very clearly, and the water is just phenomenal in its color of blue. And you can bet, Amelia, I'll be doing my best to take some videos here. I couldn't really do it today because it was raining so hard. And on the day that it was sunny, we were on the ferry. We weren't even in Vis yet. By the time we got to Vis, it was dark. It takes 2.5 hours to get back to the mainland via the ferry. So as soon as I have a good opportunity that I'm not getting rained on and the sun is out, you bet I will be taking some pictures of this water.
Oh, thank you, Chris, and that would be wonderful. And thank you for that. I really enjoyed it, and what a blessing for your students, and that's fantastic. It was wonderful to hear. Thank you. Thank you. It sounds gorgeous. It sounds a beautiful, beautiful place. So,
everybody.
Rosemary has a question for you, I think, Chrism.
Very, very good. Thank you.
Hi, Chrism. It's not a question so much as I'm so touched by all that you just said and the whole human family that we are. Unless you sometimes have those experiences, you don't have them. But by your being where you are and sharing that, it just truly touches me and enables me to feel far more connected to the human family, which I really treasure. Thank you.
Well, Oh, you're very welcome, Rosemary. And we are a family of humanity, and slowly but surely, people are evolving. People are awakening more now that we know of more now than any other time by virtue of the internet, by virtue of the expanded levels of communication that we have. I've been to the state of 10,000 lakes where you're at, Rosemary, and it is indeed a beautiful area as well. And you can go out and as I've had you done, I've had you swim in the water, right, out there.
Mhm. Yes.
And it's you have some pristine, beautiful, clear lakes there. And I've been to the headwaters of the Mississippi, thanks to Eileen and the last seminar that we had there, where we met your blessed self. And, the headwaters of the Mississippi are beautiful, clean, and clear. And, very much like the waters that you see here off of the coast of the island of Vis. And gosh, when you look at it, I swear you're just looking through a clear glass of water. It is so beautiful. It is so nice. It's quite salty, though. I mean, you get in there and you really, it leaves a residue on you, which I actually enjoyed. but my student wanted to get it, to wash themselves, and that's quite all right. But yeah, Rosemary, you are also in a really, really beautiful place, and I want to thank you for setting up this seminar. I really look forward to meeting Steve there and anybody else that can make it up to Minnesota at the end of September, the last weekend of September. Please give Rosemary an email. And what's your email address again, Rosemary?
It's rosemaryg@usinternet.com.
Is that the letter G?
The letter G for Goliath, my last name.
Okay, so Rosemary G at
usinternet.com.
usinternet.com. So Rosemary G at usinternet.com. And thank you, and thank you to Eileen Laurel for setting that up. And I know that you can reach Eileen Laurel at elaurel55@yahoo.com. And she also has information about your seminar as well, right, Rosemary?
Indeed.
Okay. Well, thank you for your statement and for adding into this program. I'm about ready to end it here, unless anybody else has a question. Anybody on the chat room have a question, Amelia?
No, Chrism, nobody has a question. Everybody is still there. I think, like myself and Rosemary, rooted to the spot and thoroughly enjoying ourselves, because it's been a really nice show, and it really has. So I want to thank you, and everything that you said about, how our old selves really are being replaced by the new emerging self from the Kundalini,
and to let that occur.
Let that occur. Sure. Yeah. And it's such a blessing, to hear your voice and Rosemary's and everybody's. And I'm feeling that connection with everybody too. So thank you, and thank you to your students for bringing you to that place where you have shared with us as well. So thank you, everybody. And see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see. And is John listening?
John is listening. He's in the other room.
I tip my hat to you, John. And 324 is happy?
324 is very happy. I was with 324 today after I came back from Cork, and we had a little chat.
And for everybody that's wondering, 324 is the standing stone that John and Amelia have in their front yard. And boy, is Ireland lucky with standing stones. Just amazing. Paleolithic monuments. Boy, I tell you, if I can do another seminar in Ireland and work in those Paleolithic monuments like Noth and Newgrange, wow, it is so gorgeous of an effect on the Kundalini. Kundalini just loves it.
Yeah, well, It does, and Chrism, we will have another seminar in Ireland. So if anybody is listening in Europe and is interested in that, they can drop me a line to kundalinimatters@gmail.com, and there will be something happening next year, I'm sure, in Ireland again. I hope so. So note, it would be wonderful, Chrism, to include notes. And just to tell you, I've been noticing more standing stones than I have previously, actually, in my journey between Cork and Kerry. There are quite a few ones I haven't noticed. So in people's gardens and such. Yeah.
You are wealthy. You are wealthy with a blast from the past like that. It's amazing, really amazing. One of these days, we should probably do one of these radio broadcasts on Kundalini and Paleolithic communications from the past.
Well, what I would love to do, if it was at all possible, would be, and I'm saying this now, would be to have longer than a seminar, or to have something where, we could gather as community for, maybe not a week, but a very long weekend, and do a tour. It would be like a Kundalini retreat in motion, if you know what I mean.
That'd be great.
Not a touristy thing, but that it would be like, it would be, that's the way I would see it, as being a Kundalini retreat, a Kundalini connection in motion, and we would go to different sites with you, because having done that with you, it has a very powerful effect upon the Kundalini. It has upon mine, and I know I would love to provide that opportunity for other people. So I'm going to think about the possibility of that. If anybody listening would be interested in that, contact me again at kundalinimatters@gmail.com, and maybe I'll start thinking about that for 2015 or 16, Chrism.
That would be great. Yeah, I would be very interested in doing that. And also, I'd like to shout out to Jake and Eleonora. A big thank you for their friendship and hosting us there in New Jersey. And I'd also like to shout out to Yvonne, otherwise known as Vonnie, for allowing us to broadcast from her apartment in the city of Cork. So thank you to everyone who's really gone out of their way to help us bring this information to this audience. And once again, everybody, if you can email this show to wherever, whatever network, Reddit or any of these other areas, please do so. Let's get this phenomena out here, let's get this information out there so that people don't have to go through what this gentleman that I just described is, contemplating suicide because he's unable to find balance within his Kundalini awakening process. Let's get this information out so that people can begin to really actively participate in their own levels of spiritual refinement within the Kundalini awakening equation. Really, folks, try to spread this around. Spread this around. It's free. It's free for people.
Thank you, Chrism. And I would just like to also send love and blessings to that man, that you speak of. And I think that what actually happens when people hear information like this is it opens up something for them that can make such a difference in their lives. So, please do.
Yes. All right, everybody, this is Chrism and Amelia and all of you on the chat group, and Eileen and Rosemary, signing off from Croatia. See you next week.